Let me paint you a picture. You're 22 years old. You do everything right. You go to college. You get the degree. You land the stable job. You contribute to your 401k. You cut your lattes. You follow the plan. Then you're 35. Still following the plan. Then you're 52. Still following the plan. Then you're 67. You finally retire. And you spend your final years doing the things you always said you'd do, when you finally had the time. Except your knees hurt. Your energy is gone. The people you wanted to travel with are already gone. And somewhere along the way, the dream that made the plan feel worth it quietly died. M.J. DeMarco called that plan a lie. A very comfortable, very socially acceptable lie. And in the Millionaire Fastlane, he lit it on fire. But here's the thing that makes this book so different from every other get rich book out there. DeMarco isn't selling you a shortcut. He's not telling you to flip NFTs or dropship from your laptop on a beach in Bali. He's doing something far more uncomfortable than that. He's telling you that the story you were handed about how wealth works, the story your parents believed, your teachers taught, and your friends are living, is fundamentally broken. Not slightly off. Not in need of a few adjustments. Broken. And the earlier you understand that, the earlier you can actually do something about it. Today we're breaking down the 6 harshest truths from the Millionaire Fastlane. These are the ideas most people put the book down to avoid. The ones that sting because they're true. Let's go. Truth 1. The slow lane is not a path to wealth, it's a path to, okay. Truth number 1. And this is the one that makes people the most defensive, which is usually a sign it's hitting closest to home. DeMarco describes 3 financial paths that people take through life. He calls them the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane. The sidewalk is living paycheck to paycheck. No plan. No savings. Spending everything immediately. The slow lane, and this is the one most responsible people are on, is the traditional path. Get a job. Save a percentage. Invest in a diversified index fund. Wait 40 years. Retire. Sounds safe. Sounds smart. Sounds like what every financial advisor in history has told you to do. But here's the problem. DeMarco does the actual math. And the math is brutal. If you start at 22, invest diligently, earn average market returns, you might retire comfortably at 65. After sacrificing 43 years of your best energy, your healthiest decades, your most creative years, to a plan that pays off when you're old enough that wealthy and retired are the same word as tired. Most people don't realize this, but the slow lane isn't a path to wealth. It's a path to delayed poverty avoidance. You're not getting rich. You're getting just okay, at 65. And the 2 most important variables in the slow lane, time and market returns, are completely outside your control. You can't speed up 40 years. You can't control whether the market goes up or down. This is where it gets interesting. DeMarco isn't saying don't invest. He's saying don't mistake investing for a wealth strategy. It's a preservation strategy for wealth you've already built. The slow lane is the finish line of financial literacy. It's not the starting point. Truth 2. Trading time for money is a wealth equation that will never balance. Truth number 2. And this one cuts right to the center of how most people think about earning. Here's the equation most people are running. Wealth equals hourly rate times hours worked. You get paid X per hour. You work Y hours. That's your income. And your income is your wealth. DeMarco calls this the most limiting financial belief a person can hold. Because here's the brutal math underneath it. There are only 24 hours in a day. You need to sleep. You need to eat. You need some kind of life. So realistically, you've got maybe 10, 12, 14 hours to sell if you're aggressive about it. That's your ceiling. That's the maximum wealth your equation can ever produce, no matter how much you optimize, hustle, or grind. And here's the problem most people never stop to notice. The ceiling is low. For almost everyone. A doctor who went to school for 12 years, took on hundreds of thousands in debt, and works 60-hour weeks, earns maybe $300,000 a year before taxes. Which sounds amazing. Until you realize they have almost no time, chronic stress, and if they stop working, the income stops that same day. Most people don't realize this, but any income that stops the moment you stop is not wealth. It's a sophisticated version of the same trap as an hourly job. This is where it gets interesting. DeMarco says the Fastlane wealth equation looks completely different. Wealth equals net profit times asset value. Not hours. Not your rate. Systems. Businesses. Things that produce income whether you show up or not. The goal isn't to earn more per hour. The goal is to stop selling hours entirely. That's not a hustle tip. That's a complete restructuring of how you think about what making money even means. Truth 3. Your job is making someone else rich, and that someone isn't you. Truth number 3. And I want you to really sit with this one. DeMarco asks a simple question that most employed people have never let themselves fully think about. Who is getting rich from your work? You go to your job. You bring your skills, your creativity, your energy, your best hours. You produce value. And then, the system distributes that value. Your employer takes the majority. The government takes a significant piece. You get what's left. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just how employment works. But here's the thing that makes this truth genuinely sting. You accepted that deal. Voluntarily. In exchange for something called security, which, if you look closely, isn't really security at all. It's the feeling of security. Because your employer can eliminate your position tomorrow. They can outsource it, automate it, downsize it, restructure it. You're secure. Job exists entirely at the discretion of someone whose first obligation is not to you, it's to their business. Most people don't realize this, but the employee relationship is fundamentally one-sided. You bring your life's energy. You get a salary. They keep the leverage. This is where it gets clarifying rather than cynical. DeMarco isn't saying quit your job today. He's saying, understand the deal you've made. Clearly. Without the comfortable fog that most people wrap around it. Because the moment you see it clearly, you can start asking a different question. Not, how do I get a better job? But, how do I build something that I own? Something where I capture the value of my own work? That shift in question, that single pivot, is the beginning of the Fastlane. But here's the problem that stops most people right there. They've been an employee so long they've forgotten they're also capable of being a builder. They've confused their job title with their identity. And the idea of building something from scratch feels so unfamiliar, so exposed, that they retreat back to the comfort of the deal they already know. The cage is open. Most people choose to stay. Truth 4. Follow your passion is terrible financial advice. Truth number 4. And this one is going to be controversial, because it goes against something you've been told your entire life. Follow your passion and the money will follow. DeMarco says that advice has destroyed more financial futures than almost anything else. And here's why. The problem isn't passion. Passion is great. Being excited about what you do matters enormously. But here's the brutal truth that follow your passion conveniently skips over. The market doesn't care about your passion. The market cares about one thing: Does this solve a problem I have? You can be passionately, obsessively, joyfully in love with something, and if it doesn't solve a problem people have, or solve it better than what already exists, it will not make you money. Most people don't realize this, but the graveyard of failed businesses is not filled with lazy people. It's filled with passionate people who built something they loved, without first asking whether anyone needed it. This is where it gets interesting. DeMarco flips the formula entirely. He says instead of, "Follow your passion," the Fastlane question is, what does the market need? What problem exists that nobody is solving well? Where is the pain, and how can I be the one who takes it away? Find that, and then develop the passion for serving that need. Because passion for your work comes much more naturally when your work is creating real value for real people and generating real income as a result. Here's the pattern interrupt hiding inside this truth. The most successful entrepreneurs DeMarco studied didn't start with passion. They started with observation. They watched people struggle. They noticed friction. They saw a gap between what existed and what people actually needed. And then they built the bridge. Passion followed. It always does, when the work is genuinely working. Truth 5: money is not the goal, but you're wrong about why. Truth number 5. And this one comes with a twist that most people completely miss. You've heard this 1,000 times. Money isn't everything. Money can't buy happiness. The best things in life are free. And DeMarco agrees with all of that. But here's the thing. He agrees for a completely different reason than most people who say it. Most people say, money isn't everything, as a way of making peace with not having enough of it. As a way of reframing limitation as wisdom. It's a defense mechanism dressed up as philosophy. DeMarco says money isn't the goal, because freedom is the goal. And money is simply the most reliable tool for purchasing freedom. Most people don't realize this, but there's a massive difference between those two statements. One is resignation. The other is clarity. Freedom from the alarm clock you hate. Freedom from the commute that steals your mornings. Freedom from the boss whose approval you need to pay your rent. Freedom to spend Tuesday afternoon doing exactly what matters most to you, without asking anyone's permission. That freedom has a price tag. And pretending it doesn't, or that you've transcended the need for it, doesn't make the alarm clock go off any later. This is where it gets deeply practical. DeMarco introduces 3 things he believes true wealth actually consists of. He calls them the 3 F's. Family, the time and presence to be with the people you love. Not the promise of it someday. Now. Fitness, the health to actually enjoy your life. Because money and freedom mean nothing if you're too broken to use them. Freedom, the ability to live on your own terms. To say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. Without financial fear making the decision for you. Wealth, in DeMarco's world, is not a number in a bank account. It's the daily experience of those 3 things simultaneously. Most of us have been chasing the number, without ever asking whether the number, if achieved, would actually deliver the life. Truth 6. The fast lane is not a shortcut, it's a harder road that leads to a better destination, sooner. Truth number 6. The last one. And the most important one. Because here's what most people assume when they hear the phrase, millionaire fast lane. They assume DeMarco is selling a shortcut. A hack. A way to get rich without doing hard work. He's not. And I think this is the most misunderstood idea in the entire book. The fast lane is not easier than the slow lane. It's harder. Significantly, brutally, often humiliatingly harder. You will build things that fail. You will invest time in ideas that go nowhere. You will have periods, sometimes long periods, where you're working harder than any employed person you know and making less money than you made at your old job. But here's the thing that makes all of that different from the slow lane version of hard work. Every hour you put in builds something you own. Every failure teaches you something you keep. Every iteration gets you closer to a system that eventually works without you. In the slow lane, you work hard for 40 years and the fruits belong to someone else's company. Your employer. Your pension fund. The government. In the fast lane, you work hard for 5 or 10 years and the fruits belong to you. The asset you built. The system you own. The business that generates income while you sleep. Most people don't realize this, but the fast lane doesn't promise you won't struggle. It promises that your struggle will build something that's yours. This is where it gets real. DeMarco lays out what he calls the sense framework, the 5 commandments of a legitimate fast lane business. Control. You must control the system. Not be dependent on a platform, employer, or algorithm that can change the rules overnight. Entry. The harder it is to enter the market, the more valuable your position in it. Easy entry means endless competition and shrinking margins. Need. It must solve a real problem. Not a problem you imagine people have. A problem they are actively suffering from and will pay to make go away. Time. It must eventually separate your income from your time. A business that requires you to be present every minute is just a job with more paperwork. Scale. It must be able to serve 1,000 or 1 million people with roughly the same infrastructure. A business that can't scale can't produce fast lane wealth. Most people don't realize this, but sense is a filter, not a formula. Run any business idea through those 5 questions. If it fails even one of them, you're building on a foundation that will eventually crack. But here's the truth underneath all of it, the thing DeMarco really wants you to take from this entire book. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are not too broke, too uneducated, or too unqualified. DeMarco himself started with nothing. He drove a beat-up car, lived in a cheap apartment, and failed multiple times before he built the business that made him a millionaire in his early 30s. Not at 65. Not in retirement. At 33. Young enough to enjoy it. Healthy enough to live it. Early enough to do it again. That's the fast lane. Not a shortcut. A different road entirely. 6 truths. None of them comfortable. All of them true. Let's run through them one more time, fast. The slow lane isn't a path to wealth. It's a path to delayed survival. Trading time for money is a ceiling, and for most people, it's a low one. Your job is making someone else rich. Follow your passion. Without market validation is a financial plan built on sand. Money isn't the goal. Freedom is, and money is what buys it. And the fast lane isn't easy, it's just a harder road to a better destination. Now here's what I want to say directly to you. You might be watching this and feeling one of 2 things. The first feeling is excitement. Energy. This is it. This is what I've been looking for. The second feeling is resistance. Defensiveness. This doesn't apply to me. My situation is different. Here's what I've noticed about those 2 reactions. The people who feel the first one usually already knew something was off. They just needed someone to say it out loud. The people who feel the second one? They're usually the ones this book was most written for. Because resistance to an idea that makes you uncomfortable is one of the most reliable signals that the idea is worth sitting with. DeMarco isn't asking you to blow up your life tomorrow. He's asking you to look at your life clearly, without the comfortable stories you've been using to make it feel fine when it isn't, and ask yourself one honest question. Is the road I'm on going to get me where I actually want to go? Not where you've settled for. Not where you've made your peace with. Where you actually want to go. If the answer is yes, keep going. The slow lane works for some people, genuinely. But if there's a pause before you answer, if there's a hesitation you've been too busy to sit with, that pause is the most important financial data you have. Pay attention to it. Thank you for watching.